one question I have for you is how many fingers do you have an owl has?
How many fingers do I have? Is that the
Do you think
question?
an owl has?
It all has. Geez, that's a great question. I want to say six.
Are you sure?
That's a good
Are you
question.
counting
Yeah,
like the toesy things or like the
ye-
wing thingies?
I'm counting just the toesy things.
No. Okay, good. Because I would have translated like fingers to like the wings, and the feathers sticking out. But
Yeah.
interesting that you're going with the toes. Okay, good. What was one of your most favorite books that you've read recently?
That's a great question. I would say one of my favorite books that I've read, I actually reread it recently. It's a book called Sell Like Crazy. They was doing a free promotion on Instagram, and I'm in a place where like I want to understand the nuance of just selling. So it talked about high level on just using different marketing strategies and leverage social media as a way to really sell your product. So that's kind of been like my realm, and that's because I'm in the place where I do have my own app, and I'm also vibe coding and teaching vibe coding to a lot of people. So how to stand out in a world where social media could be very noisy could be a difficult challenge, but you know that's part of the game. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Perfect. I've also seen you're a product manager mostly, also a founder.
Yeah,
Could you maybe introduce yourself quickly and tell me like where your focus is?
absolutely. So I am a founder and I would say a product manager at heart, and there's a reason for that. But first and foremost, founder, I founded a company called Rapid Labs, and Rapid Labs is a venture studio where we help uh, founders, entrepreneurs, creative to get into creative tech, what we call vibe coding. And we do that by source of education. So we help out non-technical folks understand the nuance of what it is to vibe code through a product management lens. So building out user stories, building out use cases, building out hypotheses to really get them in that mind frame of how to build great product, but also being creative with what you're building. So that's kind of been my jam these past couple of months. I just spoke at Lyft headquarters. I had a class of 30 there, and it was really amazing to see an all women group kind of just sit down together and build apps, build products. Some of them became co-founders. So that's really been my jam, really fostering a builders community.
What do you think makes a product manager a product manager? Like in very simple words.
I think what makes a product manager is the ability to communicate a product roadmap, which allows them to now effectively communicate with engineers. So that's what I think makes a product manager.
Is there anything that you realized when teaching vibe coding what like everyone does wrong initially or like any misconcept people have?
Yeah, I think that the biggest misconception when it comes to vibe coding, I think that they feel like this is like a one and done approach where like you just tell AI like, "Hey, build me this app." And then they kind of get stuck as to like what are the next steps, which is why I teach the methodology of like product management because it helps you get into the mind frame of, okay, well, I need to build out user stories. I need to build out my feature list. And that user story ideally helps you out with product mapping and understanding user flows. So, um, you know, that's what I teach and making sure that, hey, like this is not just one done approach. This is also takes iteration, it takes time. But if you have really well written prompts, it won't take you that long. So I've also created a what I like to say like a framework of prompt engineering to also help
Mhm.
out participants on how to effectively prompt.
Do you want to give us like a little sneak peek of your top number one advice that you
Yeah,
implement in your framework?
yeah, absolutely. So I love telling everybody to use the COCI method. So that's context, output, constraints, and iteration. So context allows you to set the picture and the user reality for AI. So that means potentially in that prompt you state the user persona, you state the user problems, and then you state the user solutions. And then the outputs is ideally the desired outcomes that you want as a user for your persona. And that outcome could be as simple as I want the users to be able to cook faster, or I want the user to be able to find ingredients faster, right? So, what is that desired yield outcome? And then tying it into constraints. I think often we don't tell AI what not to do in our prompts rather than just say, hey, build me an essay or whatever the case may be. Putting boundaries to AI and letting AI know, hey, don't do X, Y, and Z plus iteration really is a recipe for a really strong prompt and a really strong output when you're building features.
So, if I am planning to create a tool, would you
Yeah.
recommend that I first do user interviews, fill in the business model canvas, or I don't know, have a product requirements document? Like, what would you recommend before even starting to prompt and using vibe coding tools?
Absolutely. That's a great question. One of the key things that I harp on a lot to my participants is definitely writing out a product requirement document. That document in the tech world, it's that one communication document that we hand off to engineers. So why
Mhm.
not do the same when you're handing it off to AI? So it is a good way to actually map out your features. It's a good way to map out your user stories. And it also gives you visibility as to like what exactly you're building. And it's just a perfect roadmap for people who are just trying to get into building. I like to keep it simple for non-technical people. So I've actually provided them just like templates and frameworks where it's not like overcomplicated, because you also don't want to upload 20 pages of a PRD into an AI model and ask it to build an app. It's just going to hallucinate and it's just not going to be a perfect way to build. So keeping it simple is key as well. I think sometimes we tend to try to get too clever with AI rather than just really focusing on the problems and solutions when building a product.
Do you have like a specific tool that you're using or a specific set of tools that you would recommend for vibe coding when you like start with a new idea or just
Yeah.
testing everything?
I mean, I'm a tester. I test everything because the thing is that depending on what you want to build, some of certain things could be different. So, for example, if you really want to build a really cool web app, I probably would recommend Lovable, right? So maybe use what I would say my tech stack would be like ChatGPT, Lovable, and Claude. ChatGPT for ideation, Claude for like copy and copywriting, and then Lovable just for the web app. But if you're looking to go directly into the mobile app scene and ship directly into mobile apps or the Apple Store, I really, really love createanything.com. They really make it really easy for you to build mobile apps and then streamline it and upload it to the App Store right away. It depends on the use case. I know there's a new one called emergent.sh. I've been playing around with that. That's been really cool. They use Agentic AI to really build out their apps. I did it in one prompt and it really built out a lot of features for me. So I was really impressed. So yeah, I just love testing out and experimenting. And then when I do teach, I like to give my participants options as to like what is the best use case and what is the best fit for them.
There are two different, let's call them philosophies, when you start out with new projects. One is
Yeah.
get as many users as possible on your tool, platform, whatever you're building, and then find your super users.
Yeah.
And the other one is charge people directly from the start and then refine your product. So which philosophy do you agree on most? Charging
I
initially or just looking for super users?
I would say looking for super users, and I'm saying that because I've learned my lesson by putting a paywall, and I think that being able to understand your user pain points, really understand where your users are at, really honing in and fostering a community too, because I think it's important to foster a community around your product. I think that's super important early on. I do think that adding a paywall right away can deter people, especially if they don't know exactly what's the value they're extracting from your product. So being able to just be, I guess, neutral with your users is important, and being able to understand how can I now create stickiness to my product and having users come to my platform again and again and again.
Now, if we look at founders, then it's very clear. You start out with a fresh idea, you need to do some research beforehand, you most likely even have the problem yourself. But what if I'm a company and like they are working in a specific department and we just need an internal tool? Do you think that web coding is still the right direction to go, or why not?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I know that there's been use cases where there has been companies where they've allowed a vibe coding solution for like internal operations. I just think it's hard because a lot of these, well established companies have a lot of red tape as to like what type of software can come into their network. So I think that we have to get to a place where the code has to be secure and also maybe there has to be some alignment with a lot of these vibe coding platforms with a lot of these companies. It's probably easier for like a startup because there's not a lot of red tape. But when we talk about, for example, I used to work at DraftKings, which is a mobile sport betting app. They wouldn't allow that at all, right? Because it's just like it'll infiltrate their network, and they just don't know what can come out of letting a third party app kind of come in as a solution. So I think it's too early to figure out if it's something that all companies should be doing. I think there is some type of risk mitigation that a lot of these companies are doing just to make sure that they're not putting their company or network at risk. But I do see a place where if we're able to get secure code while vibe coding and actually fix internal operational things, then I think it could be a win for a lot of companies.
And do you think that it's like beneficial for when you vibe code that you have technical experience, or is it like even more valuable to come from this product manager side?
That's a great question. I think that there needs to be some technical nuance. And when I say some, I'd say respecting the foundation of what it is to
Mhm.
code. But I think it just makes it so hard to like be super technical and vibe code all at the same time because technology moves really fast, right?
Mhm.
And you have non technical people scaling products overnight. And how do we now get that edge and competitiveness in trying to launch a product in due time? So although I will always say respect the foundation of coding and learn the nuance in a very beginner friendly way, I do see it in a world where you don't need it as much, but I also recommend it. Being able to vibe code from a product management lens does give you a leg up because you're able to articulate exactly what type of features you want to the AI. But I also do see in a world where if you're a designer, you also have a leg up because you're able to vibe design,
Mhm.
and being able to articulate that in a very profound way. I'm not a designer
Mhm.
at heart, so maybe they have a design edge over me, but maybe I have a feature edge over me. So maybe may want to collab, right? So it just really depends on what creative lens you stand on. For me, it's more feature forward, more product forward. For others, it could just be creative forward. And I think that's the beautiful thing about vibe coding, that is really creative tech, right? Like, I'm not sure if you remember when MySpace first came out, right? You can like pretty much customize your own page. You can take like code from another page. I'm 32. So when I first started doing coding, it was during the MySpace days. That for me was like the the initial beginning of vibe coding because you were able
Mhm.
to just code things on your page, make it look cool, make it to your, how you like it based on your personality. And I think that's where we're at now, but with better tools, right? And these tools allow us to really get creative with what we want from a creative lens as well. So there's both sides to it. I know some of the engineers feel some type of way about vibe coding as well, but I think we're just in a place of that technology and the learning curve of it is just going at a such rapid pace that it's hard to keep up with. So it's like, do I get the technical skills now or do I just learn this new thing where like it does it for me? So there's a balance.
I feel like this is also one of the reasons why vibe coding is now so popular because you just can realize so many creative thoughts so fast.
Yeah.
Do you have like any other reasons why you think vibe coding is so widely spread?
I think vibe coding is so widely spread because I think for the first time in a really long time, we're able to prompt something that we had in our mind and say, hey, build me a trading app, right? We're able to really let our ideas flow and actually validate them in real time, right? And it doesn't have to be a perfect product. And I think that's where some people get hung up at. It doesn't have to be a perfect product for you to go to market. It could just be a simple MVP to really test out this idea or validate your idea. And I think that being able to do that in 2 or 3 days, it's insane. When back in the day, you would need tens of thousands of dollars to build the MVP and hope that there's some user stickiness. Now, I think the barrier is so low that anyone could spin up an app and anyone could validate it. And if it doesn't work, people can pivot, right? Like it's just you're using $20 a month, and that barrier is just so much lower when it comes to cost and overhead. So yes, it does feel like a buzzword at times, but I think the things that you can do with it, it's like beyond us. Like it's like, whoa, like you mean to tell me I could build the MVP in one day and validate it and if it goes well, great. If not, then I can just pivot and think about another idea. Like that's really gnarly, like before, I would say 7 months ago, that wasn't really a thing. You would have to lean on a developer and like go back and forth and try to figure out like how am I going to pay for this developer. Now you are the developer to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that founders are always scared about like the costs. I think the investment in vibe coding tools is actually worth it because you think how much money you save. For example, you have a $20 subscription for a Lovable. You directly host your website, for example, and your tool in one go with just the $20. And that is actually quite insane if we think about how much it costs if you have everything in 200 different tools, hire developers for that, and also the time that you save, right?
Yeah, and you
But
save a
how
lot of
much do you
money.
think people also spend on average for vibe coding tools, like monthly, a founder?
Monthly.
Yeah. What do you think they spend?
So I'll be honest with you. So for me, I'm a tester, but when I first started, I want to say on a monthly basis, I want to say like about $120 a month. And then
Okay.
I had to scale down. I was like, all right, this is too much. And that's because, right, at first, when I first started, I want to say Vibe Coding came out in February. First started in March. When I first started in March, I was still getting like my ropes in, trying to figure out like, all right, how do I effectively like prompt? And if I effectively prompt, I also save credits. So I was running through my credits like there's no tomorrow because the way I was prompting was not
Mhm.
effective. Then I was like, okay, I need to prompt like if I was like a product manager. Like that's when the aha moment came to me. And then I started to like see like, okay, effective prompting does reduce credits because it's able to understand nuance a lot
Mhm.
better. So I want to say from like March to like May, I went down to like $60 a month. Now I barely pay anything now because like I just pick and choose like which product I'm gonna, just test out now. So yeah. So it depends.
I think all founders have like a PC Pro subscription. I think I don't know a single
Uh
founder that doesn't have it. So that's already like the $20 that we're talking about. And then of course on top the builders that pay for
yeah.
everything. Do you also have like experience with vibe coding or like vibe setting up sales, marketing, outreach campaigns, whatnot? Or are you
So
not really in that field?
yeah, no, I'm not really what they call it vibe marketing. That's not my jam. I'm not a marketing guy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to learn vibe marketing. I think it is a really essential like skill to have. Like the most I've like done with like vibe marketing is just more like marketing assets on like Higgsville. That's probably like the
Mhm.
most. But when it comes to like automation and like tooling, I'm not there yet. I'm still a vibe coder when it comes to just strictly product.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But like my future dream is that we just have like a beautiful web marketing tool that creates launch videos for like new features, new products, because I
Yes.
think that is so expensive and takes so much time to create something good, just in case someone out there wants to create that.
I agree.
Um,
That is a really great idea because it's like I do a lot of it. Like I record a lot of my mobile screens to turn it into
mhm.
marketing assets, and that is really time consuming. So yeah, I like that a lot actually.
Yeah, so for your next batch, maybe that is something that you can throw out in the open.
I got
But
you.
it's actually very interesting how you ended up with vibe coding. Can you tell me
Yeah,
more? How did you discover that
absolutely.
for yourself?
Yeah. So it was in a time where there was a lot of uncertainty, if I'm being transparent. So I was let go in 2023. I think a lot of folks experienced a massive layoff around that time. And, I was just trying to figure out like, what's next? What do I do next? And time went by. A lot of the hype was just like AI agents and like creating like chatbots on Make. So I spent the year kind of just learning that nuance of like, all right, how do I make a chatbot? How do I make it, experimenting with Telegram? And then here comes 2025 of February, and one of my good friends tells me you need to vibe code, and I'm like, vibe code, what is that? And she sat me down. We hopped on a Zoom call and she was like, hey, watch me create an app in 20 minutes. And I'm like, no way. Enter a prompt. And I was just like taken away by it. It really came to me in a time where like I was looking for like what's next? Where do I pretty much invest my time and passion. And vibe coding has been that. Like I really enjoy not only teaching vibe coding, but I also love fostering communities and seeing other builders build and also exchanging ideas. So that's really been where I've been at in the space of vibe coding. It really came to me in a time where like I needed clarity, and I don't know, I just love vibe coding. I love all that it has to provide. I enjoy connecting with a lot of the vibe coding platforms. So I do have an existing relationship with Lovable just because I've been in communications with them. I've hosted events on the behalf of them, especially in New York City. So just even getting to know the teams, being part of hackathons and meeting builders, it's just been an amazing experience this past 7 months.
You already mentioned like using Make in 2023 and then switching to vibe coding in 2025. Where do you expect vibe coding, or maybe even a new trend coming up, like in the next 2 years or in the next 5 years? Where do you see this heading?
Yeah, I think that where I see this going, I mean, there are people already doing it with like third party apps, but what do see and envision when it comes to vibe coding is just being able to vibe code with just simply with your voice, just like voice activation. I think there's something pretty cool about just being able to just say it out loud rather than just like typing everything out. I think ideas come naturally when you speak it out rather than saying, "Oh, I have an idea, let me type it out." I think you lose your edge from the moment you think about it to the moment you type it. So I do see a world where we're going to see more integration with like voice prompting and just being able to just like voice vibe almost. And I see that in the near future. It's hard to say 2 to 5 years because who knows, right? Like this space moves so fast. Like, as I mentioned, I was playing around with emergent.sh and they use agentic AI, which is pretty powerful. So I do see a place where like now in the next couple of, I want to say the next year, where a lot of these platforms are going to be moving towards an agentic workflow rather than
Mhm.
just using like a Claude or just using ChatGPT on the back end. So yeah, that's where I do see it going. Probably in the next year or so, more agentic platforms building out apps more efficiently.
Do you also think that building your own AI models will be a thing?
Yeah, I do think that building your own AI model will be a thing. I also do think that it just really depends on, because I mean, building your own AI model, it does take time. So, and also just like data, it is just like where are we hosting all this data, and that could be costly. So it's just also seeing like how cheap does it get over time as it becomes more efficient. So this is one of those things where like I haven't been playing around with like building my own AI. It would be dope too. I would love to build an AI for like combat sports, and have that be like my own, just like sports analyst. But for now, it's what we call, building wrappers for it using like ChatGPT or Claude. But I do see a world where once it becomes more efficient and less costly, I do think we're going to be like vibe coding agents a lot better. Um, and it did happen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Web3 agents, but Web3 agents, they were able to like understand their environment from like Twitter and like wherever you place them at, they were able to understand their environment. The only thing is that you do really need programming technical skills to make that happen. And I didn't have those programming technical skills to make it happen. So maybe creating like a vibe agent platform where you can like vibe code it, I think that would be like really cool and would be like the next leg up.
Very interesting insights. Do you have like any wishes for example, Lovable? What they definitely need to and what they're still lacking to make it even better?
That's a great question. I think from Lovable to make it even better, like I know their main focus is web apps, but I wish there was a way to streamline the mobile app process to where you can directly just like upload it to the app store. I think that'd be a killer app at that point. Like if Lovable is able to do that, then yeah, it's a killer app at that point because you have the web app and then you also have mobile app. I think for me that's probably one of the implementations from a feature perspective. The chat feature is really good. I love talking to chat and just making sure that the AI understands what exactly I'm trying to build.
Mhm.
And maybe adding some more, I guess, adding options. I know they did this before where you can like switch over between like ChatGPT and like Claude, maybe allowing users to pick, who should be able to build their code, whether it's Agentic, Claude, or ChatGPT. I think that'd be really cool to just like allow users to pick who you want to build your code as well.
Very interesting. Like regarding the apps and vibe coding apps, there is something called Flutter Flow. I think they like shifted to calling themselves Dreamflow, but
Mm,
there you basically low code build an app. They introduce now a chat interface and then you directly publish to the App Store. But of course, Flutter is not React like Lovable uses it. Yeah,
right.
technology switch, but that's a very interesting app. I liked it as well. That was the
Okay.
first low code tool, low code builder that I ever tested.
Yeah, so I used Flutterflow at first,
Yeah.
but it felt like a lot when I first used it, and this was back in
Mm.
2024 before vibe coding was a thing. So I haven't touched Flutterflow since, if I'm being honest. So maybe I should check it out. But it felt like Canva, like the drag and drop, and I was just
Mhm.
like, this is too much.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
but now they switched it to like calling themselves Dreamflow, and now it's literally like lovable with a chat interface and everything like that you did manual with moving around stuff on the Canva is now
yeah,
also like with the chat interface, which is very cool. But I did not test it yet.
interesting.
I just saw the video ad. So no idea if that's really, really as good as it was advertised as.
Right. I do have a question
Okay.
for you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, what has your experience been with like vibe coding, and what are your key takeaways since your initial start of vibe coding?
Initially, I was making fun of everyone that used vibe coding because I was like, you will run into security issues. No one is as good as a technical developer. Like, how can vibe coding even do that? What a developer does, because everything is somehow connected. Even as a developer, you constantly break stuff.
Yeah.
And you know your code base usually in and out. Like literally, you can in your sleep remember the lines of code that you wrote, right? So I was not a fan initially, but then with ChatGPT and using that very often for like writing text and whatnot, I also tested it on code. It of
Mm,
course has limits. It can replicate what is already there, and only if you prompt it well. So if you are very good with like writing down like the path that you want to take in implementation, like what concepts to use, what I don't know what, then it's very good. Also what libraries to use. So with Lovable, same experience. If you tell it what library you want, it works so much better because then it does not try to implement something from scratch.
right.
I'm still very skeptical here and there.
Yeah.
So I feel that like technical knowledge is really something that is beneficial. But I also know that product managers, they're like creme de la creme because you need to know how to describe the user workflow. You want
Yep.
to have like very specific features, not everything at once. And
Exactly.
so it's like, I think a very collaborative way because in Lovable you can invite people,
Yeah.
tested also V0 and whatnot. But if you have different people coming together that are product managers, designers, technical people, then you can actually build something very huge in a very short amount of time. And I just love seeing people creative. And that was what made me switch from, oh my God, vibe coding, what is that? Why do we need that to, yeah, vibe coding, why not? It's fast, it's maybe not perfect, but we're getting there.
We're getting there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have different projects I think that you already worked on with vibe coding. Like, can you maybe give me some inspiration on what use cases that you've seen already vibe coded from, I don't know, DocuSign to whatever apps? Can you name me a couple?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could talk a little bit of some of the apps that I've created. So,
Mhm,
so for me, I used to be, I still am. I'm like on the fence. I love Notion. Notion is really a
mhm,
place for me to like just roadmap everything in my life. But one of the things that I found out was that in the midst of uncertainty and trying to figure out my own life, there was a lot of emotional triggers for me when it came to the stresses of like tasks, whether that's applying to jobs, whether that's updating my resume and kind of just going to day of life. So I was like, I wanted to build a system where the system also understands me and my emotional triggers. So I created an app called Clarity. And Clarity, you're
mhm,
able to brain dump your ideas, your thoughts, your task, anything that you got going on in your life. And it gives you actionable plans, but then it also highlights your emotional triggers of each of those tasks for you to actually conquer your task based on those emotional triggers. So if there's a task that requires a lot more energy, then it'll let you know, hey, this task requires you a lot more energy based on these stressors you pretty much brain dumped on me. So that allowed me to really understand, like, all right, what tasks are stressing me out? What tasks are not stressing me out? Should I go for the tasks that are less stressors and then kind of just like work my way up to those tasks that are really stressing? So I built Clarity. It's a voice first where you could just voice first. Don't need to do text if you wanted to, but it's almost like productivity meets wellness. And I thought that was like really cool to build, and I love
Mhm.
it. I use it every day. We have actually about like around 115 users. I built it around 3 months ago, so that's been pretty dope. I built a dating app where you only
Classic.
use your voice. Well, this is different because this dating app you're only able to use your voice. So think like Love is Blind. So like you'll go back and
Oh,
forth
I
with the
love it.
user. And then at the end of the 5 voice prompts, you're able to either pay for the photo reveal or mutually agree to reveal your photo with each other. So those are the type of things that like I've been building. Yeah, I mean it's been tough like to continue building because I've been like teaching a lot lately. So that's
Mhm.
also been rewarding as well.
So basically, voice dating. Like, voice for me is the most important thing when I meet people, and voice
Yeah.
dating sounds so fun. Huh. Maybe you also can do that for like finding friends through voice.
Yeah, that's actually
Yes,
pretty
please.
dope.
Then I would use it, right?
I think I found my
That's very
co-founder.
cool. Yeah, I'm very passionate about voices as well. But really cool
That's
ideas.
dope.
How did you come up with this?
Honestly, just like experiences through like, as I mentioned, like with Notion, I was like, all right, there's nothing that actually like captures my emotions. And then like also like just testing out all these other different dating apps where a lot of it feels superficial almost, where it's like, all right, I don't know what's going on in your head. I don't know like how am I supposed to have a conversation with you when the first thing I see is just pictures and I'm swiping based on image. Like why not swipe it based
Mhm.
on like what's on the brain and like same interests and same mutual, things that we like to eat. I think getting back to that, it's like for some it may seem so like old school, but I just think it's fundamental to get to know a person. Shoot. Absolutely.
Okay. Then, is there anything else that you think is super important to know when you start up with Flight?
Yes, I'm going to say this because I tell this to my participants in my class all the time.
Mm,
Always, always, always try to get a specialist for those technical gaps that you don't have. I think it's important, it's imperative to protect your users because we don't want what happened with the T app with all that data got leaked. I'm really big on security. So for any vibe coders, I'm going to harp on it. Please get technical expertise. Even if you get your app from like 0 to like 80%, just hire somebody. It's going to
mm,
cost you less if you hire somebody versus like you just ship an app and don't care about security, and it's going to cost you more because then it's going to cost you your
mm,
reputation, it's going to cost you your users. Just hire a specialist. I think that the cost barrier is so low now because you're able to build a full-fledged product from like 0 to 80%, that just hiring a specialist to make sure that your API keys are not on the front end and they're on the back end and making sure they're protected, right?
mm.
User data is not on the front end and it's all in the back end on a database, right? Like just simple things like that, and kind of just doing like a security audit, I think is super important when you're vibe coding. Whether you think your product is like chef kiss perfect, just get an audit. It's just it will save you a lot of headache.
I have the experience that it's very hard to hire people outside of your expertise because then you do not know what is good. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips on how to find someone for like a security check, for example? What do I have to look for when I hire someone? How can I detect that someone is good?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think looking at marketplaces for developers. So like
Mm,
my go-to is Fiverr. I've met some amazing, brilliant developers who do security audits on Fiverr to the point where like I hire them full time outside of Fiverr because they did such an exceptional job. So just really looking at like who you're hiring, I think Fiverr makes it easy for you because you can look at their reviews and see who has worked with them
mm,
from a security audit perspective. I think Upwork as well, leveraging Upwork as a marketplace. It's hard to trust people off the internet if you just put it on like on Twitter or on threads and say, hey, I'm looking for a developer who can audit this. I want to see their work. I want to see their portfolio. I want to see the reviews. I want to see how good they are. And I think also interviewing them as if they were interviewing for a position, I think that's important too as well. So making sure you have questions ready and making sure that you both are aligned, because I've seen instances where they both weren't aligned, and that's okay. So I think that's important too as well.
Would you recommend hiring like milestone based or hourly based?
Great question. Depends on your budget. If you have a tight
Mm.
budget, I would say milestone base. But if you have the budget and if you have the money, and hey, hourly it is. It just really depends on where you're at when you're building your product. I would say try to get it to as close as possible. If you're tight on funds, try to get it as close as possible to the finish line, and then have a dev kind of pretty much take it to the finish line with the security audits, database, making sure everything is all clean, good to go before you're deployed. But if you have the funds and you've been bootstrapped, then it doesn't hurt also going the hourly rate just to make sure efficiency along the way.
Did you see companies hiring specifically vibe coders?
That's a great question. So I think that we are in a place where, yes, I think interviewers are asking about vibe coding. And I say that because I interviewed for a job back in April. And this was like my aha moment where I was like, yeah, I'm going to go all in on vibe coding. In April, I interviewed for a crypto company. And one of the first things they brought up from my resume was that, hey, I saw that you're a vibe coder. We saw your portfolio. And we were interested, like, are you able to build internal solutions? Now this is a startup, so maybe more for startups you'll see like them asking for vibe coders. So I do believe that in the startup world, yes, they are asking for vibe coders, because I've been asked twice already in two startup interview questions, if I do vibe code and what I think about vibe coding solutions internally. So if you are looking for startups and you do have some vibe coding skills, make sure you put it on your resume, because that also attracts recruiters. It also attracts hiring managers on your expertise, because I think vibe coders is just, it's more than just like me being able to ship a product, but I think it also relates to how can you solve a problem, and I think that's also important.
Yeah, and also maybe like thinking in the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to know so much and have to keep so much in mind when you want to launch something. So that
Right.
is also something where we saw if people know how to vibe code, then it's very likely that they perform well in remembering everything there is to like a specific task.
Yeah.
Okay. But now if I would apply for a position that is for vibe coders or like someone, I don't know, product manager with vibe coding experience, what do you think I need to bring when I want to put vibe coding on my resume?
Yeah, I think you need to bring a portfolio of apps that you vibe coded. Um,
Mhm.
keep record of all your product requirement documents, keeping record of just demos that you've also created along the way. I think just building a really good arsenal of your work, it's important. What I also do think it's important is also creating a brand for yourself. Just being able to kind of just put yourself out there as a builder, I think it's also important. I think too often I see builders who are timid and they don't want to put themselves out there, and I get that. I was once timid, and then once I started putting out more of my apps on Twitter, I gained the confidence to say, hey, like, maybe this is really good. Maybe I should start posting this on LinkedIn. And that has yielded opportunities for me to continue teaching vibe coding, and people look to me as like this subject matter expert. But I always tell people, like, I'm still a student in the game as well, because I'm always learning. There's always something new. I've just found a way to really articulate product features to AI in a really simple way where you're able to get powerful features. So build a resume, build a portfolio, vibe code a landing page with all your work, right? Like, I think that's telling that you're able to build a portfolio by vibe coding. That shows your skills. I vibe coded my portfolio as well. My portfolio is MySpace themed, because again, that's where I started like coding. So when you look on my page, it looks like MySpace, and has all my work on there. I'll send it to you so you can see.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. I love it. Like a little bit of nostalgia here and there.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people that want to make things perfect before showing it to anyone. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips on how to overcome that, to miss the point of like where you could actually ship something or where you could put something on your resume?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, not over engineering is important. Focus on just that one problem you're trying to solve. And maybe it includes two or three features. It doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be pretty. if it solves the problem, I think that's the most important thing. And then at that point, you're able to share this MVP and iterate based on feedback, or continue to scale how you see fit. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to solve a problem. Honestly, try to keep it simple. I do believe there's a huge thing with like the dignity of simplicity. Simple is more, and being able to just keep it as such, where if it solves this one issue, you already have a product. You know what I'm saying? So just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Don't over engineer it. You'd be surprised on how much people would be like taken back about your simple product, rather than trying to add all this like beautiful branding and copy, and then when you get to the app, it's like it doesn't solve anything for you. So it's like, just keep it simple, don't over engineer it, focus on one or two issues that you want to solve, and
Mhm.
that's your product, and make that your MVP and add it to your resume.
For me, it helped to have like a set timeline deadline. So
Yeah.
basically shipping end of month, end of week, whatever, no matter how good, how bad I think it is. That is just like a tip that I want to add here. But otherwise, really good advice. Thank you for that.
Technology is moving fast, and it
Mhm.
is up to us to understand where the space is going, and also be able to not be afraid and also not antagonize new technology. Because I think in a world where technology moves fast, we're always like, oh, I don't think this is cool, I don't think this is going to last. They said that the same thing about the internet. People were afraid about the internet, and here we are 30 odd years later with the internet, right? At such fast speed. The same thing is happening with new technology, and it's okay to learn new technology and not be afraid of it. I think you're doing more harm in not learning new technology than kind of putting it to the side. There is a new economy unlock with vibe coding. Like, you can do a lot with vibe coding. And a key takeaway is just build. Just build that one simple product. Whether it's bad, crappy, whether it's excellent, like, just build it. Build it because you can, build it because you have the resources, but build it because if you are a creative, you want to be able to express what you've been working on. And I think this is a really cool way to do it. Yes, it's tech, but I also do see it as creative tech. So if you can lean on that creative realm of what you like to do and what brings you joy and happiness, just build it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be cute. It just has to solve a problem.
Thank you so much for being here.